Live with CP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Live with CDP podcast on this Wednesday, May 25th, 2022 at 4 o'clock. Hard to believe it's May 25th. Anyways, guys, I'm looking forward to my guest today. His name is Stu Jeffries. He's a Canadian radio TV personality, and he's currently the morning host on the morning show on 97.3 The Boom in Toronto, and look forward to speaking to Stu Jeffries today. And Boom 97.3 used to be Easy Z Rock, and it plays a lot of 70s, 80s, and 90s music. So music that us guys in their late 40s and early 50s can relate to. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Stu. So just bear with me, guys, and I'm going to bring on Stu Jeffries. And again, I hope everyone's doing well, and I look forward to bringing on Stu. Just 1 second, guys. Hey, good afternoon, Stu. How you doing?
Chris, I'm well, thank you. How are you, my friend?
I'm not too bad. I'm a little tired, but otherwise I'm pretty good.
We're all tired. That's all right.
Yeah, I work in the graveyard shift and that too, so it can be tough on your body at times.
Yeah, no kidding. What do you got? It's the all-nighter for you, like midnight to 6 in the morning or something?
Midnight to 8 in the morning. Yeah,
that's a long haul, man.
Yeah, but it won't be for permanently. So, and I want to say, Stu, thank you so much for coming on today, season 3, episode 44 of Live with CDP.
That's my pleasure. Great to be here.
So, thank you. It's my 154th episode, so in 2 years. So I've been very lucky to get great guests like yourself and others to come on the past couple years.
Well, it's very kind of you. Great. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Gotta ask you, since you're a Maple Leafs fan, how is the city taking the Maple Leafs first round playoff exit?
Let me ask you first. Where are you broadcasting from? Where are you based?
I'm out of Guelph, which is about
cool.
an hour from Toronto. Yeah.
Well, as you know, Ontario. Everybody says Ontario is a hockey province, but Ontario is a Leaf province, really, for the most part. The vibe was actually really surprising this year. I thought. I had a feeling that they weren't going to beat the Stanley Cup champs, and there's a reason why they are the Stanley Cup champs, and it looks like they're going to be again. Tampa's an awesome team. And the fact that they took them to 7 games was awesome. But what I felt after this time, it's different, and I've been a Leaf fan all my life. I found that what was different this time is nobody was really annoyed that they got eliminated in the first round yet again. I think this time everybody was happy with the effort they put forth. And I think this time they kind of thought, you know what, we have a good squad. Keep these guys together for the most part, maybe make a change here and there, and we'll be even stronger next year. And I think that's the first time I got that vibe out of how many times that they've been eliminated in the first round of the playoffs or not even made the playoffs at all. So I say the vibe in the city is kind of like that. It's kind of like, oh, well, but, we're good. So keep us together and we'll go next year.
How do you feel about them keeping Brendan Shanahan, Sheldon Keefe, and Kyle Dubas back together for another year?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, we as Leaf Nation have a tendency to, the majority of people in Leaf Nation have a tendency to really fly off the handle when things go a little south. I think it was early in the season or last year when, Mitch Marner couldn't muster a point in the playoffs or whatever, that everybody's like, okay, trade Marner. It's time to rebuild. Like they do that all the time. I think this time, I don't know. I'm willing to let these guys hang in. I do believe there is a plan. I do believe in the Shanna plan. I think it is coming to fruition. And, I give these guys a couple more years. Again, it's a good team that they put together. I think right off the bat, though, for me, this is a real call to arms as far as changing the playoff structure back to the way it used to be. I mean, there used to be a reward for, finishing tops in your league or finishing tops in your division. And that reward was to play the last place team in that division, first and eighth, second and seventh, that sort of thing. This playoff structure is like right away, it's a great team versus a great team. And it's not just the Leafs in Tampa Bay. You look at all over the place. Great teams were playing great teams. So one great team was going to get eliminated really early in the playoffs. And that to me That's just bad for hockey. I want to see two of the very best teams at the very end, not necessarily see them eliminated in the first round or the second round or so. So I'd love to see that come back. I mean, look, you look at the way Tampa Bay handled Florida. I think if the Leafs handled Tampa Bay, got past there, I think they would have had a good time against Florida. We could be heading to the Eastern Conference Final right now with this current structure. So, okay, not bad. But, man, you put Washington and Pittsburgh up against each other right away. You know what I mean? Or you put Pittsburgh and the Rangers. Like, I mean, what the, like, those are two. I want to see that in the Stanley Cup final. I don't want to see that, or in the conference final. I don't want to see that right away to see one of these great teams in the NHL get eliminated. So I hope that they, revisit that and maybe make a change or two.
I was going to say, I'm a long life Red Wings fan. Right now we're in a rebuild, but for many years back in the early 90s, the Red Wings had to suffer a lot before they won their 4 cups. So I would say I would personally I'm not a Leaf fan, but personally I agree. Give them one more year.
Yeah.
And if they can't get over the hump next year out of that first round, then you might want to consider making some changes. But I was going to say, there's a couple of guys that Dubas might want back, and that's Nazar Kadri and Zach Hyman. Obviously, they couldn't keep Hyman because of the cap situation. And Kadri, well, I guess he had a few suspensions there in the playoffs with Toronto, but those two players would have been quite useful for the Leafs in this series against Tampa Bay.
For sure. I mean, a little bit of gravel, right? You could use that. I mean, I think they expected that from Wayne Simmons, and they never really got it. I think that experiment's kind of over. I like Wayne I think he's a good dude, but I don't think that he was the answer to that gravel that we needed down low, and somebody there to poised to fight, poised to put him up at a moment's notice. And Naz, I love his style of play, but his style of play can be quite selfish, right? And he takes dumb penalties, gets suspended, and then you lose one of your best players moving forward. Did he get suspended for that the goalie push? I don't think he did.
No, negative.
And I think, and I'm watching the replay a few times, and I'm thinking, I'd let him go on that one. I mean, his track record's pretty crappy. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't get at least one game, but really he was pushed in, and that's that. And I do love the press conference afterwards where Binnington threw the water bottle at him. I think that's awesome. We need more of that. We need more of that stuff post game. That's just fun to watch.
Yeah, you know what? I think he's actually become a better player since leaving the Leafs, going to Colorado. Just because he's fit in with Colorado, there might be a little less pressure on him, because being a Toronto kid playing for the Maple Leafs, that's got to be so much pressure on you.
For sure. And I mean, just ask Johnny Tavares, I mean, there's a guy that, God, man, his work ethic is second to none. Could not put a point on the board to save his life for the longest time. And you see the relief on his face when he finally popped one in, right? Like, it's palpable. You can tell. It's like, my God, that guy's under a ton of pressure. And getting back to your first question, though, I think really this was a more forgiving crowd this year, and I'm kind of glad to see it. I'm kind of glad there wasn't a lot of moping around and stuff. It's, and yeah, I'm with you. I think, Shanahan and Dubas and stuff, these guys have had the reins for long enough. I mean, another season for sure. I'm willing to give them another season to get it done. And I think by getting it done, it means the final or nothing, as far as not the Stanley Cup final, but the conference final at least. Got to do that. Otherwise, maybe it is time to move on.
I was going to say, before we get on to some questions, with the Leafs, obviously they're keeping the management and coaching together, but do you think one of the big four are going to have to be moved?
One of the big four? Oh, yeah. I mean, God, he's faced that dilemma every year, right? There's always somebody that's got to go. God, I'm with you. I'd give my eye teeth to get Hyman back and see if we can make a deal there somewhere. God, that guy's a great player. Love watching him.
Absolutely.
What's that?
Absolutely. I wish he was on the Red Wings. Ken Holland, the Oilers GM, has done a great job bringing Hyman in, and Evander Kane. He wasn't a popular guy, but he took a chance on him, and the Oilers are looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, and that I guess one thing I'll backtrack a little bit. Love to see about the playoff structure. Did give us a Battle of Alberta, and I was hoping for that because, man, I love watching two teams that can't stand each other go head to head. So much fun to watch, and it's such great hockey. Watching the Calgary goal scored from behind their own net was like, I was like, classic. And I thought, that the Boo Birds were going to rain down, but it turned out okay. And my eldest son, Ben, is an Oilers fan. And so he's really happy how things are going right now. And my youngest son, Sam, is a Hurricanes fan. And so, we still got two guys in the family. They got somebody to cheer for. So I'm happy to be on one of their bandwagons.
That goal last night by Calgary reminded me of 2002. Detroit was down 2-0 to Vancouver. Game 3 was in Vancouver, and Nick Lidstrom took a shot from center ice, and it beat, I think it was Dan Cloutier. It was a fluke goal, and that just turn the series around for the Red Wings, but obviously it didn't with Calgary last night. But I'm going to tell you this and the folks, I'm not counting the Flames out yet. I think they're going to win Game 5, and I
Agreed.
think they're going to force a Game 6 in Edmonton.
Yeah, I agree. They're too good. Yeah, and Sutter is your coach. I've really enjoyed his post-game stuff. Is so enjoyable. Love just listening to him talk. He is so deadpan. Looks like he has nothing to say, and yet he comes up with some of the great lines. So I want to see him hang around for a little while just to hear him talk at the end of the game. But and I want to see that Hurricanes game end in Carolina. I wouldn't mind seeing that go 7-2, just because I can watch the Caniacs. I can watch Hurricanes fans all day long. That building rocks when they get home, and they love their team like with a burning passion. So it's lovely to see that. Even though, I mean, I'm a fan because my son's a fan, but man, I just love that kind of support in the NHL, that kind of home crowd, man, gives me chills. Same with Calgary and Edmonton, right? Both the same. Their crowds are just nuts.
Yeah, my Stanley Cup prediction right now is going to be Colorado and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that was mine at the beginning of the playoffs too. That was mine. So yeah, I think so. Although I would like to see the Canes in, but who knows?
Yeah, and the New York Rangers, like I said, they're 5-0 at Madison Square Garden. So I can see the Rangers Hurricane series going 7 games.
Yeah, me too.
And you know what? In a way, Batman's done the NHL a favor. There's not as many 4-game sweeps anymore. A lot of the series are now going 6 and 7 games, which is better. But I do agree with you, Stu. I miss the old format because it's, like I said, Tampa Toronto should not be a first round matchup. It should be a second or third round matchup.
Yeah, and you're talking about no 4-game sweeps. I was really surprised about the Tampa Florida series. I thought the Panthers would put up a way better fight than that. Tampa now has got, come on. I mean, they got an easy path to the final right now, an easy path. They're going to be well rested. Their goaltending is just second to none. Like I hope it is Colorado, Tampa Bay, because those truly would be the two best teams in the NHL. Would love to see them go head to head.
But I'm cheering for the Oilers because it'd be nice to see a Canadian team bring the cup back into Canada. 29 years now. 29
I know.
years.
It'd be nice to see.
It's hard to believe. I guess we'll get into some questions now, Stu.
Sure.
The first one I want to ask you, can you just tell my audience a little bit about yourself and when did you decide to pursue a career in broadcasting and TV and radio?
Sure. I knew that I wanted to be in radio when I was, I don't know, I think grade 1 or 2. I was kind of lucky that way in that I always found the magic of that medium, I don't know. There was something mysterious and fascinating about it. I tell the story often of my mother raised 4 of us, single mom in a 2-bedroom apartment in Winnipeg. And I remember gathering around the breakfast table every morning. She'd have the cereal bowl set up and all of that stuff while she's frantically getting ready for work. And there was a radio, small little black transistor radio on top of our bread box. It was immediately to my left at the table. And I remember she always had it at a low volume. But I remember just sitting there listening to it all the time. Even though there was a bunch of chaos on the table, there was something about the radio that fascinated me. And I think, although I couldn't, maybe have articulated it then, what I was fascinated was with the person that was on there was talking to me or talking to my family and had no idea who I was or who my family was. But this was a person who was a guest in our house, right, in our apartment. And I thought, how awesome is that? I never thought that I could do it. I thought that was for special people. I thought, I didn't even consider it to be a job because I just didn't, it was too good to be true to me. I just figured that special people got that job, not me. I'm not special. When I found out that I could go to broadcasting school and pursue that later in life, I was all over it. So, so I've been in love with it since I was grade 1 or 2. I would get sick a lot as a kid, bronchitis mostly and stuff, and spend, as much as a week in bed. Every so often at home, I would have the radio by my side in bed. I never got out of bed, never watched TV or anything. I just listened to the radio. I made my own charts. I followed all the jocks. I totally geeked out with it. And then I went to broadcasting school in Winnipeg, the National Institute of Broadcasting. I graduated from there pretty quickly. And then I started sending air checks out to various radio stations to see if I could get a gig. And I ended up getting one in Yorkton in 1979, Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Stayed there for a year and a half. Then went to Regina, and then from Regina to Vancouver, Edmonton to Vancouver, Vancouver to Burlington, Burlington to Toronto, and that's where I am now. So that's been it's like ridiculous. It's almost 45 years in the business. So I am super lucky to still be working. It's a ruthless business. It can cut you off at the knees. But I'm lucky to have been around for a while, and still that expression about do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life is so true with me. I mean, I've always loved it, always will. And now doing mornings in Toronto, that was my goal since I started. That I wanted to be here and I wanted to be in the number one market in the country, and I wanted to be rocking mornings and doing it. So that's it in a nutshell.
I was going to say, I didn't find my passion until a couple years ago when I was volunteering with the Guelph Nighthawks. They
Mhm.
needed a camera guy. I've never did camera work or broadcasting in my life. They showed me what to do. The producer liked my work. They paid me $50. They referred me to Rogers TV in Guelph, and that Rogers TV experience led me to doing my podcast. And now with my podcast for 154 shows now, I'm hoping with my volunteer work with Rogers and doing my podcasting and that I'm hoping to get an opportunity in radio through doing this podcast the last couple of years as well.
I hope you do too. Good luck. It's a lot of fun, boy. And once you're in it, you're hooked.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to do anything else.
No, and I have a passion for this, and I love learning stuff and getting feedback from my guests, and just trying to keep improving. And like I said, booking guests itself is a full time job
Oh
itself.
God, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so I am learning, even though I'm doing this at home. I am learning a little bit about the radio industry with booking guests, producing shows, having to do ad libbing and all that.
Mhm.
And the Toronto guys have been great. Eric Smith, Dan Shawman, Jerry Howarth have come on, and yourself, and I've been really lucky and stuff like that. And I'm just hoping one day I get an opportunity in radio.
It'll come, man. It'll come. You're doing great.
Okay. And one thing I'm learning to work on is my listening skills. You obviously mentioned where you went to school. Now,
Mhm.
did you have any mentor or mentors when you were starting out in the industries too?
No, I guess not really. Somebody that I was in contact with. I would say that in Winnipeg, I fell in love with the jocks that I listened to when I was growing up. So I would call them my mentors, and they didn't know it. I mean, I was listening to their shifts. I had a favorite radio station with CFRW at the time, and man, I felt I knew all the jocks, even though I'd never met them. From mornings to middays to drive to night to all night. I learned from them, just learned their styles, and I think I stole and borrowed mercilessly throughout the early part of my career to sort of try and figure out a style of some kind. And I would take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and steal some jokes and steal some ad libs or whatever, and then try and figure out what to do with it all. And I've said this many times. It sounds super corny, but it's amazing how in that years of searching for your voice, you find it, and it was always the voice inside of you. And even though you got all of that stuff in, it somehow all meshed together to become you, but yet that was there all the time. So I would say, yeah, I did have mentors. I just don't think that the mentors knew they were mentoring me. I was just listening to them.
Okay, and I've had Trek Swirsky come on and Eric Smith, and
Mhm.
they've given me some good advice, and I've kind of applied that advice too, like ab libbing as well. And what I'm doing now, Stu, is learning to do live interviews in person, and that way I have to think on my feet, and I
Mhm.
think that's a good experience as well.
Well, the good, you said it just before the mentoring question, is that a good interviewer always listens, and it sounds really, really sort of simple, but it's not. It's a skill. You could have a list of 10 questions that you want to ask, and in the process of looking down at your 10 questions, you could miss. I could be going down, or your guest could be going down a road that's completely fascinating, but you're focused on question number three and are not paying attention, right? Um, and also, I think when you listen, it becomes more of a conversation. All the interviews I've ever done have been, I like to think they've been conversations as opposed to interviews where, I'm learning something about you, you're learning something about me. You're telling me a story that I think people would be interested in. So I'll dig a little bit deeper, get a little more out of you, whatever. But yeah, listening is key. And, all those other skills like ad libbing and thinking fast on your feet and all that stuff. The, um, the good part is you will learn it. The bad part is usually how you learn it is baptism by fire, and you're going to screw up like you've never screwed up before, right? But one thing that I have learned, man, over the years, we think we notice all the mistakes we make. There are millions out there that didn't have a clue you made a mistake, right? We are hardest on ourselves when we do what we do, particularly in this business. And I mean, I can't count the many times that I've shut the mic off and go, what the hell was I thinking? And, nobody noticed but me. And I'll make sure I beat myself up sufficiently for that and then move forward. But yeah, you'll, you'll mess up supremely. And that's part of it, man. And it's like, and those make the greatest stories later on in life, where people ask you about your most embarrassing moment. It's nice to have a few of those in the jar.
Yeah, and I was going to say one of my friends has offered me a PA announcing role
Mhm.
for the Guelph Griffins football team here
Oh,
in
good.
Guelph, and just through doing my podcast connections. But I've never done PA work in my life, so I've told him, I said I'm interested in the role, but I've never done PA announcing. But obviously, he has enough faith in me to do it.
Sure,
To
and
think of me.
yeah, and I like that with this industry, which is great, is there's so many ways you can, you know, learn and branch out. There are so many opportunities to, everything from doing PA, like you say, to be doing, intermission sideline camera interviews or sideline interviews, and then behind the scenes or post game or whatever. There's so many opportunities and so many avenues to take. It's like that's what's wonderful about this. And then you might find that, I got into this because I wanted to get into, say, radio, but then you go down this road and you go, oh, whoa, well, this is way more fun. I'm going to try this. And then, one thing leads to another.
Yeah, and Rogers has been great experience because I love being on live TV for the Guelph Storm games. Sometimes things on TV don't always go smoothly,
Nope.
so I've learned to you got to go with the punches. And the producers I have so much respect for because the producer is like the quarterback of a broadcast, and you
Yeah,
need everybody. Everybody has to work together on a broadcast to make broadcast successful. It's a
that's a
truly a
fact.
team effort.
That's a fact.
So, okay. My next question I wanted to ask you, Stu, is did you do any internships or any kind of volunteering when you were first starting out in the industry?
No, and I don't, and not because I didn't want to. I want to say I don't think that those opportunities were available to me, at least not that I knew of. I mean, when I finished broadcasting school, I was basically told, "Okay, you're done. Put a demo together and go get a million copies of that." Which, by the way, I always have here. It's kind of like sort of like my good luck charm. Um, and it sort of comes with me wherever I go. This little reel to reel. So this was the very first demo tape I put together, and everything was on reel to reel at that time. So I did this at the National Institute of Broadcasting, and then I took this to a production house where they made like 20 dubs, and I sent them all off. And I got rejected 20 times and stuff, but I still kind of hang on to this baby because I love it. But had I known that sorry, I got to put it right back. Had I known that that internships were possible, I would have jumped at it. I mean, I didn't even consider that I could go to my favorite radio station, and say, look, can I just hang out? I'll go get you guys coffee. I'll pick up your dry cleaning, whatever the hell you want me to do. But I just want to learn and sit in. Um, I just didn't think or know that that was available. So my first experience in a real live control room was my very first experience in a real live control room. That was when I went to Yorkton in 1979 and stepped in there to do the all night show to be trained. And that was my very first foray into the biz. It was truly baptism by fire. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was trained within a couple of hours. And then it was like, you're on your own and go. So no real opportunity to learn or sit in with people. Now, after I got in, I took every opportunity I could. If I ended up in another city, another town, phone the jock that was on the radio, say, look, I'm in town for blah, blah, blah. Is there any way I can come in and, just see your control room, sit in on your shift or whatever? And a couple of times they'd let me. And so I learned from that. Yeah, no, in terms of interning, never had a chance.
I was gonna say I know with doing the podcasting and Rogers helps, but I'm hoping this summer I've got a few people that are in local radio stations, and I'm hoping they'll give me an opportunity. I said even if it's volunteer work once a week, just so I can have a feel what it's like to be behind the scenes of a radio station, and
For
just
sure.
to learn more skills as well. So
You bet. It's a good vibe too. I mean, I wonder how many street team and volunteers we've had for our promo department that have gone on to work in radio in different markets and stuff like that because of the experience they got. God, if I had known that there was a street team, if there was such a thing when I was, before I got my first job, I would have been part of that in a heartbeat. So, yeah. And getting the vibe is everything. I mean, I still get a cool vibe when I go to the radio station. I'm the only one in the building in the morning when I get there. And, man, you open that studio door, music's blaring, and you're about to go to work, and it's a cool vibe, and I make sure I soak it up every morning. Great feeling.
I was gonna say your first job in radio in '79. Do you remember your first what your first words were and the first music that you played?
Yeah. It's such an obsolete, bizarre, stupid song, that nobody knows. But it was Canadian. The artist's name is Roger Voudouris, or Voudouris, and the song is "Get Used to It." It was a hit in Winnipeg, and uh, you know what? I discovered it not that long ago. I forget where I found it, and I make sure that every so often I put it in whenever I'm walking, so that it comes up, and it's just a reminder of playing that. Yeah, it was "Get Used to It." And I think I'd made some lame tie into the title of the song, like, "Hi, my name is." At that time I used Jeff Stewart, and I said, "My name is Jeff Stewart, and I'm from Winnipeg, and I'm here, and you better get used to it because I'm going to be here for a long time," or something really lame like that. Uh, and yeah, I mean, that question just brings me right back to that moment. I can be there right now, and I remember the woman that trained me. Her name was Glenda Baker, and she had turned on the mic and she said, "We just want to welcome our latest member at CJGX. His name's Jeff Stewart." And hi, Jeff. And I'm in the background, and all you can hear me, you just hear this lame hi, because I was so nervous. My throat was so tight it barely even came out. But yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. That really takes me back.
And I was going to say, I'm going to be honest, I was born in '72. I'm going to be 50, but to me, the best era for music and radio was probably in the '70s and '80s. And
I give that to you. Yeah, you know what? For me, the 70s. There's a decade that was just so wicked. I mean, coming out of the '60s, kinda it's a musical decade trying to find itself, and then when it finds itself, it's just like, yeah, and then it kind of progresses into, a different sort of, musical street. Somehow keyboards get, inserted in there a little more prominently, and then you're moving into the '80s, and yeah, I think for me, I agree with you. The '70s and '80s, I think, is by far the best 2 decades musically. That's in my opinion. Um, '90s is kinda all over the place. Still some good stuff, but all over
yeah,
the place. And, every time I think about the 2000s, 2010s, 15s, 2020s, I remember the music from the era, but I just can't, I can't place it. But that's because I think I've been planted '70s, '80s, '90s for so long that, I'm gonna stay there probably forever. And there is some true, science to that. Apparently, the music that you really loved at, I forget what it is, like 29 to 31, or when you're 17 years old or whatever, is the music that you will love for the rest of your life, that you will always go back to, right? So, for me, that's it. It's '70s and '80s for sure.
okay. Before I get to the next question, I had to ask you this:
Mhm.
Cincinnati Reds hat, and obviously, did you see Joey Votto play at the Rogers Center last week?
I did. The Reds hat is kinda just a reminder of I'm a Jays fan, but it's a reminder of my love of ball. And when I first started watching Major League Baseball on TV, in the '70s, I was a fan of Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine, and who won their fair share. Uh, I go back to Johnny Bench, who was like one of my fave players, Dave Concepcion, um, uh, uh, man, names escape me here right now for
Joe
whatever.
Morgan.
Oh,
Joe
yeah,
Morgan.
Joe Morgan with the chicken wing going up here, man, I love that. Anyways, I love Pete Rose. Pete Rose, dude, like Charlie Hustle doing those headfirst dives, like he was the only one doing it, and it was so cool to watch. Yeah, I could, and in Winnipeg, you got one Major League Baseball game a week back then, and I was always hoping it was going to be a National League game, and every so often the Poes would play them too, and so it was fun. So yeah, I always hang on to the hat. It's always just a reminder how I love the Big Red Machine. And I'll put that on every so often. Votto, I love Votto because he's he's actually turned into a grumpy old man, but he's funny. He represents well. And his post game after popping a couple in Toronto was pretty good. I like him. That guy's got the twinkle in his eye, and I love it. I love that. He's there's something going on back here that we're not privy to. And I kind of like that. He's got some swag, that guy.
I was going to say, in my opinion, he's probably the second greatest Canadian baseball player after Larry Walker.
Okay, yeah, Walker's in there. Me, and I'm a Fergie Jenkins guy too, man. I mean,
That's
just,
true. Yep.
yeah, I give it up for Fergie whenever I can because he's just like, man, when you think about it, hey, like back then, I mean, he would have been the only Canadian. You know what I mean? There might have been Canadians coming up, but we didn't know about him, right? Fergie was representing, and to be a Cub, come on, that's cool. But yeah, Larry Walker had the pleasure of meeting Larry a couple of times, and what a stand-up guy, just a stand-up guy, and a great representative for this country.
I was going to say Canadian baseball has come a long ways since the
Yes,
70s and 80s. It's come
yes.
definitely a long ways, and it's nice to see a Toronto kid like Joey Votto become a Major League Baseball superstar with Cincinnati.
For sure. Freddie Freeman. Hey, like, I mean, it's not
Yes,
I love that it's not even, it's not unique anymore. That's what I love, and I was hoping for those days when you're a Canadian, it doesn't matter. You're just a good ball player, right? And that Canada's spread all over the league, and we've got so many great prospects coming up. I mean, it's not even it's like we talk about Pride Month and Pride parades and stuff, and I always say I can't wait till we don't have a parade, when we don't need a parade, because it's just the norm and everybody's just everybody accepts everybody, and it's just the way it is. That's what I want. I want everything just to be the way it is, and we don't have to make a big deal about it anymore because it's normal, because that's how it
yeah,
should be. Um,
def-
I look forward to those days.
definitely. And I was going to say my other Cincinnati connection is a TV show from the 70s, WKRP in
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
my fave.
That's one of the things I've always liked about radio and that TV show and stuff like that. And they played such cool music back then on that TV show.
So good, and yeah, I love that. Still my all-time favorite. You know what the shame is? There's a few copies out there. You got to pay a lot for them, but if you were to get the DVD set now of WKRP, all the music that they played on the show when it originally aired is not on those DVDs, that because of licensing issues. So you're hearing different music. Like when Johnny, pushed the needle across the record to change the format to rock and roll. The record that he put on, at least the one that we heard, was Ted Nugent. It was Queen of the Forest. And what I love is he's up and he's rocking, even as they go to commercial break. You see the stylist has gone all the way over to the label on the record, like it's not even playing anymore, but the music is blaring in the background. But yeah, I mean, to hear the original music in that show, oh man, and that show is, people ask all the time, how close is it to real radio, and it's like it's spot on. So some of the lame promotions and sales dudes and and news on a music station, news is always fighting for that one spot, trying to get some footing on a rock and roll station. I mean, everything is true. So I gotta miss that show. And Howard Hessman, Johnny
Passed
Fever,
away.
man. Yeah, I got to met him, and he was so unbelievably nice. And still, I have a picture with him, and it's still one of my treasured pictures. He's like, Johnny Fever's the man.
And he was also in Police Academy 2, I believe.
Yeah. And he
And that
also
was
headed the
from the
class too for a bit, right?
yes,
And got a couple of seasons of that. Yeah, but he'll always be Dr. Johnny Fever for
Fever,
sure.
definitely. Are you okay for a few more questions, Stu? Are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
okay?
sure.
Okay. This one I wanted to ask you. How did you end up at the Boom 97.3 in Toronto? Originally, it was what, Easy Rock, I guess, until
Yeah.
2014, and then they switched over.
Yeah, that's it was I mentioned at the beginning, that radio can be ruthless, and you've got to really be ready for anything. And um when I came over to Easy Rock from Country 95.3, myself and Colleen Rushholm were doing a show there. And then we were hired to be the morning show at Easy Rock. And we were there for about 3 years, and couldn't quite get any traction. I mean, I think first of all, we were new and we're battling heritage stations like Chum FM with Roger, Rick, and Marilyn at the time, and CHFI had Aaron Davis and Mike Cooper, and I mean, they were crushing us. And because we were brand new, and they were familiar names, familiar faces, and had a foothold in this market, and were really good. So we had a lot of work ahead of us, and couldn't quite get it done to the speed I think that the organization wanted. Then we were kind of sold at the same time that my contract was up. So we used to be with Standard, then we were sold to Astral, and then from Astral, I sailed to Bell, and then we were kind of divided up, and in sort of a long series of moves. Bell took a bunch of stations and left a bunch behind, and Easy Rock was the one they left behind. We became Boom. I think prior to that sale, we became Boom. And I was anyway. Backtracking. At the end of my contract at Easy Rock, they didn't renew it, and I was out. So that was that, and they replaced the morning show And so I was kind of on the outs, and that was a real tough thing to take at the time. I had sort of worked my entire life and career to do mornings in Toronto, and had an opportunity and couldn't quite make it happen. So I was on the sidelines, and had a choice to make. I had a lot of offers to go to other markets, but I didn't want to leave Toronto. So I kind of started over again, and that was really hard to do, particularly at my age. And I found myself doing weekends and then evenings, and then finally, when the morning show that they had hired wasn't doing what they wanted it to do, they kind of put me in there and said, "Look, just stay there, or just go in. It's not going to be a morning show. It's going to be real high energy, play lots of music, take lots of requests for songs." And I remember thinking, well, what a shitty idea that is. But I was happy to be back in mornings. I didn't think they were going to keep me. I think the idea was to put me there until they figured out what to do. So what I decided to do was, I'll make it very hard for them to get rid of me. I'll make it very hard for them to think about hiring somebody else. I'll prove myself here, and I've done it before, and I'll do it again. So now I'm doing a morning show by myself. Totally not what the market has. Every morning show is a multi-person morning show. It's just me in there. And I mean, just me. There's no producer. I'm doing my own board. I'm doing everything. So I did that for a couple of years goes by, and it's kind of moving a little bit in ratings, but not really. But then all of a sudden, it starts to climb a little bit. And so we had a couple of features to it. It starts to climb a little more. We had a couple more features, starts to climb a little more. The next thing you know, I'm doing a one-man morning show, and I'm top 5 in the market. And that just doesn't happen. So naturally, I'm elated. They're elated. They don't have to hire a new morning show. At least they'll keep me for a while. And that was 10 years ago. I just celebrated my 10th anniversary doing mornings at Boom on May the 10th. So, and things are going real well. So, you just never know. And as I mentioned, it's ruthless. And sometimes you have to, people say, well, you just got to reinvent yourself. I don't think it's reinvention. It is more, this is what's dealt me now. I know nothing more than what I'm doing right now for a living. What am I going to do with it? And how can I make the best of it? And I did that. And I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. I mean, I didn't do it on my own. I've got a great team behind me. And also the team that I work with let me do me. And, I'll approach and deal with some things that aren't necessarily comfortable. I'm also stupid, big fan of the dad joke. I kind of think that I sort of bring a really mixed bag to a morning show. And, but I'm fortunate that I'm allowed to do that. And it has worked, and people seem to like what they hear. So all good so far.
Congratulations on 10 years. And I love hearing people's stories like yourself, because it keeps me motivated in what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then just like you said, Stu, hard work, passion, and hard work always pays off in the end.
Yeah, you know what, Chris, and I will say this, it's true. But also, just because you're passionate and you work hard, particularly in this business, doesn't necessarily mean things are going to go your way, right? And that's when your passion and hard work really, uh, that's when it's really tested, and your mettle. Have you got what it takes to do it? It can be soul crushing, and it's wrong. Of course, what we do for work doesn't define us. That's not, but let's face it, it does. A lot of people take their job and employment seriously and want to make a mark, and want their legacy to be something or whatever. And we all have to work. We got to pay bills. So we might as well do what we love if we can. And yeah, that can define us, I guess, a little bit. And maybe that's wrong, but that's just how it is. And sometimes when that is taken away from you, you really, got to dig a little deeper into yourself to first of all, are you still passionate about it? Do you still dig it? um are you are you ready to do what it takes to get back to where you need to get back to? And if the answer is yes, then but then no guarantees. I mean, I got lucky. And then skill, of course, it plays a major part in there, but so does luck, timing. And hey, who's to say that tomorrow, I don't go to work, the station is sold to some guy who's got a nephew that's always wanted to do mornings, and I'm going to be out the door, right? So, anything can happen, but as long as, and through passion and hard work will get you there, but it's not the only thing. It's, it's heart, and also logic. Like, can
And
you
being at the
continue
right
to do it?
place at the right time.
Exactly. Yep.
And I've already faced a little bit of rejection, and I've heard people say, "What's this guy who's almost 50 years old doing?" But you know what? Most of the guys that I've talked to on my podcast or with Rogers have been really supportive, and I like to prove people wrong. And age is just a number.
Absolutely. Yeah, age is like nothing. And I find my thing is that all you have to do is piss me off. If you piss me off, I'm going to make you sorry that you pissed me off. And that fuels me. If somebody says like you can't do it, or if somebody says that there's no way that this is going to work, or there's no way, maybe you're not the guy, then it's like I'll show you. I'll make you. Like you will see that I'm not only the guy, and I'll ram it down your throat. Like that's that keeps me. That fuels me. The anger fuels me. Gives me. Or the doubt. If people doubt me,
Yeah.
you're gonna be sorry you doubted me.
And that's what I'm doing too.
Mhm.
Using that is to keep me motivated as well.
Yep.
Stu, I got just a couple more quick questions for you.
Mhm.
Just briefly, what is it like working in the Toronto market, and what do you enjoy about it the most? And you've already mentioned what are some of the hardest aspects. So just basically, what's it like working in the Toronto market, and what do you enjoy about it the most?
Well, for a guy that this was my goal, working in the Toronto market, is, God, it's exciting. It's almost surreal. Our broadcast location, is the 20th floor at Yonge and St. Clair's. So when I step into the control room on the 20th floor, we're surrounded by windows. And I step up to the microphone to my right. I just have to look outside, and there's the CN Towers, and there's the city. And I look right all the time. And every time I look right and I see it, I'm thinking, here I am. I'm doing what I set out to do. It has been my lifelong goal, and I'm doing it. Um, and I mentioned I walk into that studio in the morning when I'm the only one in the building, and I'm vibing, man. Like if the monitors are down, I'll make sure that I turn them up and make sure that I get some nice loud music going in there. And as I start prepping for what I got to do in the morning, um, and I'm knocking wood all over the place, going, this is just a great opportunity, and this is all I've ever wanted. And now I have it. And again, surreal. It's sort of like, man, I'm doing it. Like I'm actually doing it. It's awesome. Um, and the market itself is like, you know, it's kind of everything that I thought. It's some really talented people in this industry, some really talented people that are putting good shows on each and every day, and are putting their best foot forward all the time. And they're my competition. And the fact that I'm with them, that I'm swimming with them, is yeah. I mean, I'm just like, whoa. You know what? I'm competing against some of the greats in this industry, and we're all going head to head. And you know what? It's a super supportive community. I had people when I started moving up. Yeah, people were really taking notice and were very kind, uh, and very appreciative of not only what I'd done, but also what I went through to get to where I wanted to get to. So that would be another one of my favorite parts, is just the fact that this got such great competition out there that you get a chance to go head to head to that. Um, and there are sometimes in ratings periods, particularly the spring and fall, there can be some super battles going on that looks like week to week. The number, a station being number one can change, can go from 1 to 3, back to 1 to 3, and you're battling it out all the time with other great stations. So, that's it. And I guess to sum that up, it's just that it is everything that I thought it would be. The Toronto market is everything that I thought it would be. And I'm happy to be in the mix.
Okay, and this one I wanted to ask you. What is a normal, I shouldn't say normal, but what's a regular day like at the Boom? And what are some of your latest promotions with the station?
The station for promotions, we do a thing in the spring and the fall called payroll payout, which is a really simple thing that is very popular. We you sign up and you listen for your name, and if we call your name at a particular time, you have 10 minutes to call us back. We put you on payroll, and we pay anything from $100 an hour to $1,000 an hour, either all day or 3 times a day or whatever. And we've been doing it now for, God, it must be 6, 8 years. And people have sort of come to know and love us for that. Super simple and super easy, not too cluttered. You like to keep the music flowing. You don't like a lot of stuff to get in the way of that, but you also like a chance to, give your listeners a chance to win some cash and say thank you for listening to us. Normal day for me, I'm up at 3. I do a lot of my prep from home, which is great. God, if I to have the access that we have right now, that you have, that we have at our fingertips, it's awesome. Anything that you need. If your next guest is Gumby, you can Google Gumby and you'll have 10 questions before you know it and be ready to go, right? You know what I mean? We have information available at all, and I love that. And at 3:00 in the morning, when everybody else in my house is asleep, a cup of coffee, my computer, my dog, we're just working on what the show is going to be. I leave for work at about I'm at work by about 4:30, 20 after 4 to 4:30. I'm on the air at 5:30. Before then, I create 2 Fast 5 newscasts. Basically, a newscast is an insult to news people. Sorry, it's more of a sort of a 5 quick stories of what people are talking about, or maybe just 5 quick lifestyle stories or whatever. But it takes a little while to do the audio and and record all of that. So I do that before I'm on at 5:30, and I do the show. After the show, we'll meet with programming, discuss what was done and what needs to be done, future things coming up. Then I'll look at a few. Got them online. I'm on social probably for about an hour and a half or so before noon. Come home, have a nap, wake up, walk the dog, maybe do some of this, and then it's dinner, back to bed again. If there's one thing that I would take back or miss about doing what I do is missing the ends of games. Like when I'm working, I can't recall the last time I saw the end of a Jays game or the third period of a hockey game. I stayed up for game 6 of the Leafs Tampa Bay for that double overtime. Yep. Was it double OT? I can't even remember. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah. I was crushed when that thing was over. It's like, I can't believe I stayed up till 11:30 for this. I'm up like an hour later, right? Just dead ass tired. But that's pretty much it. That's kind of a typical day. You run out of gas pretty quickly, but as I mentioned, people talk about getting up early, and I always say that you do get used to a certain level of fatigue that you can operate on. I think I got pretty good at it. I'm usually good till about, 8. Then I start to really fade away.
Okay, definitely. Now I got to ask you this, favorite story or interview you've done so far in your career?
Oh boy.
Or I should say most memorable interview you've done so far.
Most memorable. That's a good one, Chris. You know what? I don't really know. I guess because I'm always kind of flattered when people want to talk to me. I always think, and that you want to hear my story. Like I think it's awesome, and I mean, who doesn't love talking about themselves? But I think every time I get a chance to sort of sit down and have a conversation with people like I don't know that are actually genuinely interested in what I do, I find that pretty memorable. So this one goes in the memorable list. I talk a lot about my passion for this, and when I see that the people that I'm talking to, such as yourself, also dig what you're saying, that makes it a really cool experience. So, I think really anytime like this that I get a chance to sort of, talk about what I do is pretty good. I feel like I could, I could tell a story for, I could tell the same story over and over again, and it starts to interest me. And what's kind of cool is it starts to remind me of sometimes I forget, and it's really nice to be taken back to, when you first started and what you did and your road and all of that stuff. It's a great reminder, keep you on your toes and keep you humble.
Yeah, definitely. And if I'm lucky enough to make it in this industry, Stu, I'm going to stay humble and just keep being who I am and not forget where I came from.
Boy, man, I tell you, and you know what? It's super easy to do. You just don't think about it. It's just like, because that's who you are. And as I mentioned before, you spend years trying to find what your voice or trying to find what your job is, and it was always inside you. It just takes you a little while to figure it out, but it's pretty awesome when you do.
Okay, and I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who is your favorite band, artist, favorite song, and best decade for music? And what was the last concert you attended in person before the pandemic?
All right, so let's do favorite band. Like I got to do a couple. I mean, I can't just have one favorite, but I will say the Beatles, of course. But Dire Straits for me would be that's one of my all-time favorites. I got to talk to Mark Knopfler. That band is just, and I'm talking the very first time I heard Sultans of Swing, I was like, oh my God, who is this? I need more. I must have more, and have been a fan forever. That's the desert island right there. If you got to take one record with me on a desert island, and you're actually going to be kind enough to give me a turntable to play it on, it's going to be Making Movies from Dire Straits. That will be my all-time fave album and artist. Paul McCartney too, because I think he's such an amazing man, such an amazing artist, such a genius in terms of songwriting. Everybody says, yeah, he writes pop songs and silly pop songs. Yeah, well, you sit down and try and write a pop song like him. You can't do it. It's like he's incredible. And he's also, I love how he stays relevant. He's like Elton John, always teaming up with other artists, younger artists, and, and doing, and not only staying relevant, but clearly enjoying himself and digging new music and not just being one of those guys going, yeah, it wasn't as good as the 60s, blah, blah, blah. Like he's really cool that way. My favorite decade, the 70s, I think I told you, 70s and early 80s, but the 70s to me is the decade that, obviously grew out of the 60s, but found itself. And when it found itself, it was like, yeah. And 70s artists that I dug were like, Supertramp, Warren Zevon, Jerry Rafferty. City to City is still one of my all-time favorite albums. I've got, oh man, so many. Anyway, yeah, so the 70s. And I will say, in terms of the 70s, that's when Aerosmith released Dream On. And Dream On is Aerosmith's best song. And You Can Fight Me. I will fight you on that one. They've given us some great rock and roll, but they have never done another Dream On. That is their best song ever. And last concert, probably, I'm going to go with last concert. I'm going to probably go with Blue Rodeo. Probably it's hard not to see them in concert because they're always out there, but a summertime show with them, I think, would probably be that. I think, it was Jim Cuddy on the Danforth. I think it would always be something to do with Blue Rodeo because my wife just loves that band. So whenever they're playing, we're probably out there watching.
Yeah, I was supposed to see Billy Joel a couple years ago for my first ever concert at New Air Field in Orchard Park, New York, but that got postponed because of the pandemic. And
Right.
then last year, August 2021, we still couldn't get across the border, so I ended up having to get a refund. So I'm hoping to see Billy Joel or go to a concert either this summer or before the end of this year. And I was going to say one of my favorite old-time artists is Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Phil Collins and Genesis. In
Yeah.
the Air Tonight is my favorite all-time song, and that's 41 years old now. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
believe it.
And if you don't stop everything just to do the air drum bit, then you're not a real person.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how it is.
my anytime I hear it in a sporting station at a sports event, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this brings me back to my childhood.
Yeah,
Because some
yeah.
of these music, you hear certain songs and you go back in time to when you were a kid.
It's the best part. Hey, it's time and place stuff, right? You hear it and you go right back to that time, to that spot, to that place. It's like, yeah, nothing like music to do that.
Definitely. And your station's one of the ones I like to listen to because I like the 70s and 80s. 90s, okay. But your station it pretty well is what I enjoy, classic rock music.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you.
No problem. And last question, I'm going to wrap it
Mhm.
up for you. Stu, any advice for anyone that looking to pursue a career in radio, not just myself? And where can my audience again find you on social media?
Yeah, you know what? You want to pursue this, as I mentioned before. It's not something that you can dabble in. It's not something that you can say, I want to give it a try. I've always sort of noticed that people that are passionate about this industry, even if they're not doing it now, you can tell. It's just something that's in your blood and something you got to do. It doesn't pay well to start. There's lots of heartache. You can bounce from place to place to place to place. And never really quite find, never really get comfortable in a home. It takes a long time. It has changed so much. There used to be so many different radio organizations, so many different companies, and now it's getting smaller and smaller. So, it's a little bit harder to supposing things don't go well with company A. Company A owns 156 stations across the country. Maybe you're not going to work for company A anymore, so go over to company B. There's not many opportunities there. But I will say this: one of the things that I am very appreciative of in my career is that I did start in a small market, and I did everything. I did everything from all nights to mornings to weekends. I covered city council. I produced hockey games. I did everything. I wrote commercials. Like it was like basically one-stop shopping, and I really appreciated what true community radio is, where people were actually relying on what you were talking about. And that gave me a real eye-opener into how valuable the medium is. So, be passionate, know that you love it. You can't just dabble in it. No. And if you're in, you're in. You're going all in or forget about it. But also be patient. Things get better as you get better. So that would be that. And on social, I'm at Twitter, I'm at Stu Jeffries, STUJEFFRIES. Facebook, same thing. Instagram, Stu Jeffries 1. TikTok, Stu Jeffries. And what am I missing there? Yeah, I think that's about it. That's where I'm at. Feel free to pop in and say hey. But you know what? I really appreciate the time you've given me here, Chris. I appreciate it, and good luck to you. I know I can tell you dig what you do. So here's to better days ahead, or not better days, but here's to good days ahead where you find yourself working and doing what you love.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just taking one day, one podcast to the show, one day at a time, and just going to continue to keep learning and keep improving. And I love doing this and talking to people like yourself. And I've been lucky. I've had Tim Langdon on from the Blue Jays, Mike
Love Tim.
Ross,
Great. Yep.
yourself. Yeah, Tim's a great guy too.
Yep.
And I love hearing people's stories and how they get in. Everybody's story is a little different, and it just keeps me motivated. And like I said, I really appreciate you coming on today, and I've been very lucky to have 154 podcast shows in just over 2 years, because when I first started this, Stu, I couldn't get anyone on, so I just kept working at it, and then people started talking and say, hey, this guy's a fun podcast to go on, and it just takes time. Like you said, you got to be patient. Things take time.
That's awesome. I'll be happy to spread the word, man. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Stu, have a great night. Enjoy
you.
the rest of the NHL playoffs and get some sleep as well. And we'll definitely check you out. Let's see you again on the Boom 97.3 in Toronto.
Great, man. Take care.
You too. Thanks, Stu.
So long.
So long. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast with Stu Jeffries. You guys can also check Stu out on the weekend mornings, Monday to Friday. You can call or text him at 416-872-0973. And he's on air Monday to Fridays from 5 a.m. to 9:30 on Boom 97.3 FM in Toronto as well. Just wanted to let you guys know my next live with CDP podcast is going to be this Monday, May 30th, 5:30 p.m. Guest is going to be Marissa Lanchek, on-air personality for the Mix 104.1 FM in Boston, and New Country 93.1 FM in Detroit, and WDVD FM in Detroit. And she's also a life coach as well. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Marissa this Monday, May 30th, which would be season 3, episode 45 as well. So just before we go, guys, I'm just going to show a little clip of Steve Kerr from the Golden State Warriors. He's their head coach, and he just did a little bit of a post-game or pre-game before the game between the Warriors and Mavericks last night about what the massive shooting in Texas. So I just want to play a little clip of Steve Kerr here, and how well he basically spoke for all of us on here.
By the horrific shooting that took place today in Uvalde, Texas. Our thoughts and heartfelt condolences go out to the victim's family and friends and the entire Robb Elementary School and Uvalde community. Short time ago, Steve Kerr had his media availability. Listen.
I'm not going to talk about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot-around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly Black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers, because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this, to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, you know. Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Anyways, guys, that clip was courtesy of the NBA and TNT. And Steve Kerr, the Golden State Warriors longtime head coach, summed it up for everybody. I love visiting the United States. I have family there in Michigan. I have a lot of friends there and always go to there for shopping and sporting events. But this massive shooting seems to happen now every week. And it seems like it's becoming, okay, it's a big deal, but it should not be. It's not acceptable. So Steve Kerr, I want to say thumbs up to Steve Kerr for speaking what we all feel about what happened in Texas yesterday and Buffalo, which happened about 10 days ago as well. So anyways, I just wanted to show that clip of Steve Kerr's speech yesterday as well. Just also, guys, I got some other news just to let you know, like I do for all my podcast shows. 1 second. Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is downloaded onto Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and my LinkedIn page as well. And guys, you can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. That's at Live with CDP on TikTok. I did 2 interviews from the Toronto Argonauts inter-squad game on Sunday night. I interviewed Maurice Cornell, a defensive back who had 2 interceptions in that inter-squad game. He came over from the Hamilton Tigercats, and I did an interview with longtime CFL executive, former GM, former head coach, and now he's a senior advisor to Mike Pinball Clements with the Toronto Argonauts, Jim Barker. So I hope you guys can check out my live interviews with Maurice Cornell and Jim Barker from the Toronto Argonauts on Sunday night on my TikTok page at Live with CDP, or you can check them out on my YouTube channel, Chris Palme, Live with CDP on YouTube. I'm at 97 subscribers now. I'm just needing 3 more subscribers for that 100 subscriber mark as well. And guys, the Toronto Argonauts open up their preseason this Friday night, May 27th, 7:30 against the Ottawa Red Blacks. And then the Argonauts on Friday, June 3rd, 7:30 are playing a preseason exhibition game at Alumni Stadium, University of Guelph. Argonauts, Tigercats, 7:30 kickoff. Tickets you can get at argonauts.ca or guelphgriffins.ca as well. And I will be at that preseason game in Guelph on June 3rd as a member of the media, and I'm hoping to do some more live player interviews that game, and I'll be writing another blog. Speaking of blog, guys, just 1 second, guys. I just did a blog last night. Check out wordpress.com/home/live with CDP podcast .wordpress.com. I just did a blog about the Toronto Argonauts and my experience at their inter-squad game on Sunday night, and about some of the changes with the 2022 Toronto Argonauts. They came off 9-5 last year, regular season, first in the East, and they did post the East final against Hamilton. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done against Hamilton in the second half of that game. But the Argonauts have made some big changes this offseason, bringing in Chad Kelly as a quarterback. They brought in Andrew Harris, a running back from the back-to-back Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and they brought in Tiger Cats great Brandon Speedy Bay Banks. Brandon bank. So I look for the Argonauts to have a good season. Please check out my blog on wordpress.com/home live with CDP podcast.wordpress.com as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest, Stu Jeffries from 97.3 Boom FM for coming on today as well. I enjoyed talking to Stu and about his career in radio. And also, guys, you can check out the National Lacrosse League, nl.com/schedule, 2022 playoff schedule. There's one lacrosse game this week, this Saturday night, May 28th. 10 o'clock on ESPN Plus, TSN.ca. It's going to be the Colorado Mammoths against the San Diego Seals, Game 3. The winner will take on the Buffalo Bandits for the NLL Finals on Saturday, June 4th. Game 1 will be at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo against the Buffalo Bandits, and you can get tickets for that game on buffalobandits.com as well. And let's see, guys, I got some other news for you too. The Kitchener-Waterloo Titans of the National Basketball League of Canada will take on the London Lightning for the 2022 NBL Finals Championship. The schedule is to start this Friday, May 27th at 7 o'clock at Budweiser Gardens, Game 1. Game 2 will be Sunday, May 29th in London. Also, Game 2 before Game 3 takes place on Wednesday, June 1st at 7 o'clock in Kitchener at the Odd. It's a best-of-5 series, so London has the first 2 games at home, then Kitchener Game 3. Hopefully, it'll go to 5 games. So I'm going to do a blog on that, so stay tuned in the next day or two for my blog about the NBA Finals, and I'll make my predictions as well. London is looking for their 5th NBLC championship, and this is Kitchener-Waterloo Titans' first time in the NBLC Finals, led by first-year head coach Neil Foreman, who I've had on my podcast in the past as a guest. Great guy. He's a great coach, and they're led by MVP Joe Kendrick as well. So it should be a hell of a series against the London Lightning. And guys, you can watch all those games on NBLC TV, and the London crew and the Kitchener crew will be covering those games. So NBLC TV, just Google it online, and they do a really great job with the broadcast as well. And also, guys, before I wrap it up, NBA Finals, NBA East Finals, Game 5 tonight, Boston, Miami at 8:30 tip-off. Series is tied 2-2. And at 8 p.m. tonight, we got NHL hockey, St. Louis at Colorado. The Avalanche lead the series 3-1. It looks like they're going to wrap it up tonight, especially with the Blues being without goaltender Jordan Billington, and Colorado looks like a legit team, and I agree with Stu. I think it's going to end up being Colorado and Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup Finals, but we'll see what happens. I'm still cheering for the Edmonton Oilers, and the Oilers won last night too, 5-3, so they're up 3-1 on the Calgary Flames. Game 5 of that series is tomorrow night, coming from Calgary. I'm predicting the Flames to win Game 5 and force a 6th game, but we'll see what happens there as well. And also, guys, again, you guys can follow Stu Jeffries Monday to Friday. Again, I posted his number there for 97.3 The Boom. He's on weekday mornings on the Boom 97.3 from 5 o'clock to 9:30 as well. And guys, like I said, my next Live with CDP podcast, again, will be this Monday, May 30th, 5:30 p.m. My guest will be Marissa Landchuk, on-air personality for the Mix 104.1 FM in Boston, and also with New Country 93.1 FM in Detroit and WDVD FM in Detroit. And she's also a life coach. So she's going to talk about her career on radio and also being a life coach as well. And we'll talk to her about being in the Boston market and the Detroit markets. And I think she's also in the Kentucky market as well. Hits 106.3 in Lexington, Kentucky. So I hope you guys can all tune in for season 3, episode 45, this Monday, May 30th at 5:30. Again, with my guest Marissa Landchuk. So, all right, guys. Again, I hope everybody has a great night. And I want to say thank you to everybody watching this live on my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe notification, or if you already haven't. And also thank you to those watching on Facebook Live and on Twitter, and later on my audio platforms such as Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor FM, etc. And I do have one comment. Gar Fitzgerald. Thanks, Gar. You always watch my podcast, support my show. Have you heard the news? There's Good Rockin Tonite. I'm not sure what that means. I'll have to send you a message. But Garth, thank you for tuning in. And again, thanks to Stu Jeffries again from 97.3 The Boom FM in Toronto for coming on today as well. So, all right, guys. I hope everybody has a great evening. Enjoy the NBA playoff game, the NHL playoff game, and Major League Baseball. And we'll see you guys on Monday, May 30th at 5:30 for the next edition of Live with CDP podcast. Have a great night, guys, and have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in to Live with CDP podcast.